Tabletop is brought to you by the following sponsor.
Are you looking for something comfortable to wear and keep your brain warm while playing tabletop games? Daily Dose of Yarn makes handmade, customized beanies for all of your style and comfort needs. She can even help you with a custom beanie to represent your favorite character. Check out Daily Dose of Yarn on Instagram and Etsy to order your new favorite beanie today.
So what should the name of like this homebrew thing be?
Are we sticking to like a table theme?
Table based.
Because it could be like handcrafted.
What does that have to do with the table?
You know, you handcraft a table. It's woodworking.
No. What about okay, let me think. But potluck. I don't know. Okay. Man, I wish Shay was here. He could come up with a table.
Homebrewed, sitting on a stool.
Homebrewed sitting on a stool. Is that your...
That's not a good pitch.
Well, anyway. We can come up with a name another time, I guess.
We'll name it in post.
Yeah, there we go. But this is a brand new section. Section?
Segment?
Segment, yeah, that's it. This is a brand new segment for the bonus episodes. We're going to talk about homebrew rules, what you can do to spice up your game life, I guess.
Yeah, what makes your game unique? Or what does your table need that the core sources don't give you?
Yeah, and today we're specifically talking about combat because combat is tough, especially in rules-heavy games because it becomes a bit of a slog. So we're just going to pitch out a couple things that we really like the idea of, things that we've tried in the past, things that we, do for our games. And if you have any more ideas or comments, please let us know, and we'll throw them in the next one. So Daniel, start us off. What's something that you do in combat or anything like that that's like a homebrew thing, and like what problem does it solve, and how successful is it?
Well, one of the rules that I've used for combat recently, and it hasn't gotten too much like play testing yet.
Yeah.
I'm playing with a smaller group. It's like 2 or 3 people at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I thought was like a real downer is 0 hit points. You go unconscious.
Sure.
So if you're just playing with like 2 or 3 people and you go unconscious, then the game kind of like really falls apart quickly.
Yeah.
And if you're playing in a larger group too, like in our main game, it's like we have 7 players.
Yeah. If
you're down at 0 and you're unconscious, you're waiting 45 minutes for your turn to come around, and then I'll make a death saving throw.
Yeah.
All right, and we move on. In both of those situations, like it's not fun to be unconscious.
Yeah.
So what I've done, what I'm trying to do, is give that character agency on their turn.
Yeah.
So they can still do something, and I've kind of stolen the name of it from the Borderlands franchise, the Fight for Your Life.
Gotcha.
So in my games, that we're trying to do is if you're at 0 HP, instead of just going unconscious, you still make your death saving throw to see if you recover or don't, but you're still allowed half your movement and a bonus action.
Yeah.
So you don't get a full turn, but you can still, maybe you've got Healing Word or some kind of spell
cantrip or whatever
that relies on a bonus action to cast. Or, you can still just try to get the hell out of the way, or get to someone who can
crawl away.
who can give you a healing potion.
Yeah.
Get closer to someone else who can help you. And at least then when it's your turn, you're still participating.
Yeah.
Now, the pushback I've gotten when I've tried this is a lot of players who go, no, I don't want to still be a target. Because then do you keep the rule of if you get hit, is it an automatic fail? And I feel like that should still be up there.
Yeah.
If you keep getting hit, you fall further and further down. That is another thing with homebrew rules. They are, if you're creating them, they can be hard to balance, and you've got to be willing to keep workshopping them
Yeah,
until
I think
you're ready.
because I really like this homebrew rule that you have, because my biggest thing, and we'll probably do a longer episode on death in games, but the biggest thing that you don't want with death in a game is for you to be in combat and something just hits you and it knocks you out and then you die. Because the thing that players hate more than dying is dying in a way that doesn't make sense to the narrative that they've created around their character. So like you've come with like a really noble paladin who's self-sacrificing, and like it would make sense if Boromir style he like threw himself in front of the party and gets hit with an arrow and like goes down, and like that probably that character will be like, oh, like that sucks, and like I that my character is dead, and like, you know, it's a sad moment, but it's not like that fucking sucks, like this game is bullshit, you know, like, because that makes sense with the narrative in their head. And I think that your rule, one thing that it does is it allows people to, when they go down to 0 hit points, even if they didn't do it in a way that makes sense narratively, now they have a way of saying either I'm about to die, how do I make this work for my narrative? Like, what would my character do in these moments? Would he, like, if maybe you're playing a kind of scummy, wimpy character and he just like tries to crawl away from the party, and then he like crawls to a point where he's abandoning his friends and he looks up and a troll is just there and just like steps on him, and then it's like, oh man, what a great cinematic ending. Or in the other side, going back to that paladin or whatever, like maybe he takes an arrow, he goes down, he sees like one of it, like an orc with an axe about to swing it into his friend. He has a movement and a bonus action. Maybe he just like covers his friend with his body and gets an axe in the back and dies. You know what I mean? Like you can have those moments of, I had agency, I shaped my ending a little bit more. And I kind of think that the pushback that you said about, oh, well, I'm still a target, I kind of think is bullshit. I just like, I don't care about that, because
I mean, you're still a target if you're unconscious.
Yeah,
too,
if you're
like,
laying down on the ground at like an orc's foot and he just wants to step on you, like, okay, that's still an ending. Like, do you want that, or do you want the one where you try to get away?
Because I've had in my world, I don't think you've come up to them in their truest sense, but my goblins were vicious flesh eaters.
Yeah.
So like if someone went down,
it's ding, food time.
They didn't get ignored. Like a lot of times you do combat, they go down, you focus on the people that are still fighting.
Yeah.
My goblins go for the meat and start dragging bodies away.
Right.
So that was a whole, at least if you're still moving, you can get away from that or still fight back a little bit.
Maybe use your bonus action to just try to like kick them off and you're like crawling away. And again, that reactivates the storytelling agency of your character. So I think that this is like a way that you are getting around a really poorly designed part of D&D specifically, because, and you know, I think it's a very well designed game, very well balanced. It's very fun to play, but I think that is something that comes up a lot in stories that I hear, where a death happens and it's just sort of like, what the fuck, like that, where did that come from? You know what I mean? Like, it's
game's
just
over. Like,
you
failed the wrong save and suddenly you've taken too many hits and now you're dead in a kobold cave.
And sometimes
it's not even related to, like, you just that's unrewarding.
And like the thing about Death of Strahd and like games that are high mortality, the thing is that people play them with the narrative idea that they could die at any time, and so it makes sense in their personal kind of perception of the game.
Tomb of Annihilation, Curse of Strahd. You go into those games knowing that you're going to have 2 or 3 spare characters pulled up.
And then
but when you're just playing like your campaign, you don't want to like, the giant throws a rock, you failed your deck save, you took, this is where you end.
It's just not cool.
I was talking to a friend of mine about like just sort of these sort of homebrew rules, and he has, what did he call it? It's like a last stand. Rule?
Like COD, where you like pull out the pistol and start shooting. Maybe,
but like if you get your last death saving throw, you get to do something.
I like that.
Your character's going to die. You failed. The game is to stay alive. You failed that. So you say goodbye to your character, but maybe you take out 2 or 3 of like the minions, or you do a lot of damage to the main bad guy,
or like you grab the creature and you jump off the cliff with them or whatever.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I
whatever
mean?
it is, like you do something for your party to help.
Yeah,
But the understanding is
that
this is
done.
where your character leaves.
Yeah,
You're dead.
yeah,
And it's going to take like the full quest for resurrection, if those exist in whatever game that you're playing.
yeah.
Or not. But at least then it's like, oh, you're just dead. You die.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because that's just, it's hard. It's hard. And like I said, we'll probably do a full episode on that because like death are hard to figure out. But I think that homebrew rule, and I think that your friends is like a pretty solid one where you say, because like Urban Shadows does this, where if you die, you get to pull off like one supernova move, and they're specific for each class, which I think are
Exactly.
really cool. And maybe you could even like homebrew what that feels like with your other characters before the campaign starts in a session 0.
Yeah, like what is your last stand going to be for this character?
Like a cleric, maybe they, Full Metal Alchemist style, they make an offering to their god, which is like their last bits of life, and the whole party is healed. Or, something crazy like that that's like really fun where you're like, yeah, like I fucking did something badass right at the end.
Because I think there's like a cleric spell that does like, oh, the party receives 700 points of healing.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, okay, you're dead.
Yeah.
But your god, because you lived a good pious life,
Yeah.
rewards you with like protecting your friends with like the last bit of your magic.
Yeah.
Just like if it has to be over, let it mean something in some way. Don't just be like, oh, your third death saving throw. Well, you're done.
Yeah, and
Bye.
It can be kind of if you work it out with your players. Like maybe you're playing a warlock that's in a fiend's pact. Maybe the fiend, like you sell the last bit of yourself and you become like full-fledged, like flames burst out of your skin, and like you become a true evil monster that like first focuses on all of the threats that like killed you, and then you turn on the party and it's just like, oh fuck.
Oh god, wouldn't that be heart-wrenching?
Yeah,
like okay, yeah, you were a warlock, pack of a fiend, and came to call. Now your mortal body is now what it inhabits, and yeah, it killed the bad guys, but now the party has to either like deal with that or run or like banish you, or like what do they do?
Yeah,
like, great. Now you're just telling a whole nother story because of your death, and now your death is part of the game.
Yeah, right.
It rolls forward,
and you can do that in fun ways. Like I think that's a super cool idea, especially mixed with yours, where maybe a bonus action is like you launch off your your final stand sort of thing.
Yeah. I think I was playing with this rule where like, okay, normally drinking a health potion is an action.
Yeah.
But maybe in Fight for Your Life, it becomes if you have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, your bonus action. Like, not if you're regular. Because that's just like, it doesn't make sense in like if you look at it too closely, but just the way to balance mechanics. Action if you're good. Mm-hmm. Bonus action if you're in your desperate last moments.
Yeah.
And that's
like this, you like just really focus on getting that cork out of the bottle.
You're doing nothing else but trying to do this.
Yeah.
To drink a health potion just to get back on your feet. And again, that's fine too, because you're not going to get that much health points back to be like full.
Yeah. It's just 4 or whatever.
You only are really going to have like maybe 1 or 2 on you. So
how good are you really going to be, kind of thing?
Yeah. Like you'll be good enough to get your full speed back and you can get the hell out of there maybe. So it's like, unless your game is meat grinder, you want to put things in there, homebrewed or not, to keep them going.
Yeah. Keep them going until the narrative calls for it, essentially. Yeah. Another really cool one. I can't claim credit for this one. I saw it on TikTok. I wish I could credit the people, because they actually, if you Google 5e weapon traits, homebrew, I think you can actually buy their PDF that they have gone through every single weapon in 5e and have made custom abilities and traits for all of them, because they've solved for a really good problem or a really stupid problem, I guess, that 5e has, where weapons don't feel very different from each other. Like a longsword and a great axe really don't feel different, other than the fact that they maybe do different hit dice.
D6 and D8.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, why would anyone ever choose to do less damage with their weapon? You know what I mean? So it's like, why doesn't everyone just grab the great axe? And so they solve for that by being like, daggers can be completely hidden, or they can, be thrown in certain ways, or they have certain traits that like are rending so that like people start bleeding from them, or you can add poisons to them and they stay on them longer. They have things, I think it was with certain types of projectiles that were like explosive was a trait and stuff like that you can throw on. And I think that is such a cool way to make people feel, and it doesn't even have to be combat oriented. Like maybe you have a sword, but because it's like a huge, long, great sword, it knocks people prone if you roll like 18 to 20 on your hit. But when you like are throwing this around, you can't really do it in tight spaces because it's a huge sword.
Right, yeah.
That kind of thing. So I say, especially at the beginning, and people are choosing how to outfit their character, usually they want their character to feel a certain way in combat, whether it's like the Guts great sword from Berserk, or whether it's like they want to be, the 2-knife wielding rogue or whatever. So let play into their fantasy, figure out a way to make it feel different, and reward what they want to do, because sometimes they are taking a loss mechanically to do it. You know what I mean? So I think that's a fun homebrew rule, and I think that everyone should look at that PDF. It's really cool.
And on that point is when you're making a party, you're making your player character, the weapon that you choose is kind of like an extension of your theme for that character, and kind of like a bit of their story. Like the street urchin that has to like survive is probably gonna use a dagger, or like made out of a shard of glass, or like something to start with. Like make it interesting, letting your players make a weapon and not just pull from the source book, the player's handbook, and be like, okay, what weapon does your character use? Because one of the things that I've been wanting to try is, ever since like I saw Captain America, is like
shield.
Have a shield that you can, with the throne property. Like how much fun would that be? And I haven't found anyone who'd let me try that, because a shield's not it's an improvised weapon, so D4. Like I don't think if I throw a shield it's gonna but that's like, maybe you could do a homebrewed rule where everyone starts off with, all right, your weapon is a D6.
How does it feel different from
how is it what does that do? Or maybe like give everyone a D8. I'd be like, okay, everyone starts off, you make a weapon roll, it's a D8. If you want to give your weapon a special property, like maybe it's a spiked chain, or like or like that, maybe you have a range on it. All right, now you're a D6, but you have 10-foot range. Or maybe, you want to like do a critical on a 19 or 20. Okay, so you take your less D6 and you put another feat on it. Something to just like make the weapons for the party like another aspect of the character, and not just the thing they picked up that they swing.
I think that's good, because a lot of times, unless you are a martial character, weapons become very obsolete very quickly, because people are just doing spells. Maybe you just say like, this is a sword that has the normal D6 or D8 or whatever it is, but it has the focus feat so that you can focus spells out of your sword. That, could be cool, like you could do that kind of stuff. And I totally agree that you should let your players kind of talk through that at the beginning. Shade did a really cool thing on Waterdeep. It's probably not the best for balance, but it's a lot of fun, where when we were making our characters, he essentially said, you have 3 rerolls, but if you don't re-roll all 3, I'll let you pick a feat to add to your character. If you use 1 reroll, you have 2 left, I'll give you an extra proficiency. And if you use all except for 1, then you got like another item or something. It was like basically, if you choose to take the lower rolls on stats, that you could get these other things that would kind of balance you out and make you a little bit more of a customized character. And so for mine, I think that I chose an extra feat, and I also somehow, I forget how, but I got a special item, which were hand crossbows that were like Assassin's Creed, where they kind of like flip out into your hand, you shoot with them, and then they come back and they're hidden in your clothes. And I didn't expect it to be like, hey, these are crazy good crossbows that fire and they can pierce concrete and everyone dies in one hit. But it's like, hey, these are like really cool flavored, and when guards stop me, I'm like, hey, I don't have a weapon on me, and they're like, oh, okay, cool.
I think
it's like very fun.
That shows up a lot of people, I think, when they're like homebrewing weapons and stuff. They always want to be like flashy. It's like a good homebrewed weapon, it just has like a neat trick to it. Not everything has to be elemental damage or put a +3 modifier on it. A lot of interesting weapons are just a shield with a thrown property, crossbows that hide on your, like in your wrist braces that are undetectable.
Yeah.
Small changes to like how weapons work.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just giving your players like, this is your signature weapon.
Yeah.
How is it different from everything else out there?
Yeah, maybe it's like unbreakable, is the trait on it, so that, and maybe if you're playing like a meat grinder-esque campaign and you have a lot of people like in a dungeon, you're just trying to get through and people's swords are breaking because they can't upkeep them, and like all that stuff is happening, but this one guy's dagger is always going to be there for him because it's just, for whatever reason, it is unbreakable. He's thrown it against stones, it bounces off, it's still sharp, that kind of thing. It's just like a weird little thing on it.
That could be like a fun like roguelike if you're playing like a meat grinder game.
Yeah.
Every time your character dies, the weapon remains, and you got to add
that would be so
a special
cool
effect to your weapon every time it comes back around to your next character.
Wouldn't that
but
be...
all your characters have to use this dagger, but every time...
Yeah. What would be super cool as a campaign is that instead of making characters to start with, you make a weapon that is like devours the souls or like sucks the souls or the traits of whoever wields them into them when they die. And your goal is to just try to get through the dungeon without dying. But as you die, like if you're a barbarian, maybe you choose something that goes into the weapon so that the next person who comes in like grabs the same weapon, and they're like, for some reason I hit on criticals, like you said, on 19 and 20 and like things like that. That'd be really fun. And they add up. So eventually you're like, I am matched to this dungeon because I have all these extra feats and traits on this weapon. That's a really cool idea. That's fun.
Yeah. What other homebrew things can we do to spice up combat?
Oh, for me, for combat, the biggest thing I can suggest, legendary actions, they are cool and awesome. Make sure that your little guys, your bandits, whatever, make sure that their action economy makes it so that they don't just get obliterated and everybody is just like, hey, we killed all the bandits.
Here's a thing that I do that is wildly close to cheating.
Okay.
But what I do to sort of like make it more fair, because like I said, I run a party of 7 people.
Yeah, which is,
so
God bless you.
A lot of times my monsters will have double initiative.
Yeah.
They'll have 2 turns in a combat order.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, but they want to attack that fast. Like, listen, you get 7 turns.
Yeah.
Give them 2.
Yeah. I think that you
let the leader attack twice in this combat round.
Yeah, I think that, and maybe I'll be pilloried for this, but 4th edition did a really smart thing where it had elite monsters, which they just essentially said, okay, it is a bandit, has double the hit points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that people should really not shy away from building an encounter where they're like, okay, this bandit is the leader. It has a cool weapon, whatever, but also it attacks twice every turn. And every time a bandit in his crew dies, he makes an order that causes one of the other bandits to do it. Like, make it so that if you're going to fuck around with monsters and like make them have new traits, the biggest thing that you can do to make combat more threatening, more interesting, more dynamic is to add things that give your monsters or threats more action economy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They need it.
Yeah, they really do.
Every combat encounter that you run should have like one beefy boy.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be like boss-esque level, but the bandit should have a leader. The kobold should have an apex kobold somewhere in there. Like, maybe one of them knows magic.
Yeah.
Just don't throw like the same things. Like, oh, you have 7 enemies. They're all the same. And
and like, think about what, again, for me, the big thing is story moments. So I'm thinking of maybe you have sort of like this huge Goliath of a person that's in the bandit group and you stab into him and successfully do it. But as a reaction, that guy gets to, like, if he is mortally wounded, maybe he breaks the weapon. Like, maybe he just grabs and bends the sword so that it's still in him. He's like fucked up and gonna die, but the paladin's like, oh shit, like that kind of thing happens.
Yeah, let your monsters like use variant rules like to sunder a weapon or disarm or disorient so that they lose spell slots a little bit faster.
Yeah, and I think that would be my most common probably homebrew is just I make some monsters be more beefy. And I make them usually be able to attack multiple times. Even though if they don't have multi-attack, it's just like, hey, you're hit, and then you're hit again. And someone's like, what, it's just a bandit? And I'm like, well, he's really fast.
Yeah. Legendary actions don't have to be just for legendary creatures.
Yeah.
Like one of your bandits could have legendary actions. Now he's attacking 3 times.
Yeah.
Or he's doing like something like super special where he's giving advantage to another player's roll.
Yeah. Or make it so that, like, in the bandit camp, they have a lair action where they can, like, pull a lever and a big pot of boiling oil spills out onto the, map somewhere.
They're going to use their resources the same as, like, anything else, so.
Yeah.
Homebrew those weird rules. Like, don't throw surprises at your party. Don't be stuck in the monsters manuals.
Yeah, I would say that 100% of your time, your party will be like, that was fucking crazy. Remember when that guy like grabbed me and threw me off the cliff and I had to like grab on and try to climb my way back up? Like those are the moments that people feel cool about. Yeah. And the moments that they tend to forget is like, I stab, they stab, I stab, they stab.
Yeah.
So make them do cool stuff. And even if they aren't written that way is my homebrew. So
yeah, good homebrew.
Any final words about combat, homebrew?
Keep it moving.
Yeah, tempo.
Keep it moving and make your enemies at least threatening enough that it's interesting to fight them, but don't...
Oh, I have another one.
Oh,
bloodied rules. Fucking give them bloodied rules. If they go down halfway, maybe they cannot miss attacks anymore because they're enraged and they're just like fucking hitting.
Oh,
or maybe
they
double their damage or something when they do hit. Like make it so that when they are in danger... that if they are the type of character that fucking is like, I'm gonna survive, that they unlock a bit of their
Dude, you're giving me like
brain.
And I like to expand my fight for your life rule.
Yeah.
Give the monsters that same thing, but instead of like, but before like in their last half of their hit bar, be like, okay, they're in fight for their life. They get to take an extra bonus action now.
Yeah, MMOs do it all the time where you're fighting someone and then it gets down to enrage and then you're like, oh shit, now it turns me into a bomb every other turn or whatever it is. So like, yeah, I feel like to make fights feel more interesting and dynamic, instead of letting them kind of crest and be the same thing all the way through, that you can say, okay, the dragon, you pierce it, a scale falls off and you draw blood, but then its eyes just turn, like it starts, like blue mist starts coming out of its eyes and like icicles start coming and like plating over its skin, and now every time you touch it when you attack you also take damage or something, weird stuff like that, that can be fun to make it more dangerous as they get closer and you're like, we're almost
that's
there.
basic like game design. Make the bosses more dangerous the closer to 0 they get.
Yeah, that's what I would say is give your characters bloodied rules so that instead of people asking like, how does the monster look? Does it look like it's bleeding? And you being like, yeah, it looks like it's pretty bloody. And people being like, okay, I guess I can use this spell now. Make it be like, is the monster bleeding? And you're like, yeah, but also flames start spitting out of its hands. And now like whatever happens,
As a DM, I'd say that's the most annoying question I get asked, because it's like every round, every turn, how does he look? What does he look like? Like you
have like
you've been fighting it. He's cut up. He's bruised. Like what do you want?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally think that a way to kind of negate that question also would be to
bring up the whole, they're using secondary powers now.
Yeah, or
so now you're halfway there.
Yeah, or if it's like a bandit leader that is feared in this section of the world, maybe you start like he hits his bloody thing and now he steps into shadow and he's gone. And you're like, oh, fuck. Like, where'd this guy go? Yeah. And then he pops out somewhere else and stabs you. And then if he can make it back to the shadow every turn, he's gone and untrackable or whatever. Like, things like that can happen. That's fun.
Phase out the bad guy so you can't attack them every turn. You have to...
because you can also design these bloodied powers in a way that combat becomes, yes, we have to deal damage, but we also have to mitigate certain things. Like, for me, who's a skill monkey... Like then at that point, maybe what I do is I start using my items like a lantern, and I like throw an oil pack and like a torch into the shaded area so it lights up, and then he becomes material again. Like that is the things that
now you're using your turn to do something besides swing.
It's just straight combat. Yeah, and I think that can be really interesting. So
yeah, I think I had a boss fight one time where the boss could only be damaged if she was being illuminated by a certain number of lanterns.
You told me. I was there. Yeah, it was like the skeletal like witch thing, and we had to like shine lanterns on her to make her corporeal.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Always a fun little add mechanics into your boss
I always like. I was talking with Mac a few episodes ago about how I think that every combat encounter that I design going forward will have a combat part of it, but also an objective based thing that the party naturally has to split so that they're doing something that's like maybe they're just trying to get a pendant into a statue that is about to explode, and this is like the kill switch. But then there's also like a lich that's going around trying to kill everyone, so that you're making the monster live longer just because the action economy is split between different objectives.
Right. Yeah, I tried to do that with a you were there for that living vault.
Oh yeah.
It's like you have to do this thing, but while you're doing that thing,
there's like clockwork things that come out.
All these other things are happening at the same time. Distract your players with more than one thing happening, and they have to figure out which is the thing they need to be focused on.
And your players know their characters better than you do, so they will figure out what role they have to play. Like I just became in that encounter, I literally became somebody who climbed poles and found these like little like egg things and then threw them down to people to put in the right things.
Yeah, everyone will find a thing to do, and then like, okay, now they all feel like they're contributing in their own unique way. Versus like most combat, I was like, oh, I'm not doing as much damage as the other people, so I'm
because
not.
At high levels, especially, magic users are just going to make everyone else feel like a chump.
All right.
Cool. Well, thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Do we have a name yet? As we went through,
homebrew. Like I feel like there's a
homebrew.
There's a coffee thing like
there's probably also like a home brewer like beer thing probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, what about unfiltered rules?
Morning homebrew.
There we go.
Homebrew and eggs.
What about morning brew?
Morning brew.
No, that's not good. Where's morning come in?
Where does that? Yeah, I mean, you're having breakfast at a table, but that doesn't tie into our whole theme.
Yeah,
it's too many levels different.
Let's see. What does a table stand for? It stands on 4 legs.
Yeah.
What are the rules of a table? Table etiquette. Table. Fuck. It went. Table rules. Table rules.
Table rules.
I don't like it. Maybe it's okay.
I don't know.
Table rules. Well, anyway, this has been a bonus episode of Table Rules and Tabletop Podcast. We'll see you all next week for a full episode. See you then. Bye.
Later.